For a while, it felt like things were finally working. The stress wasn't as constant. You were making progress. Maybe not fast, but enough to feel hopeful again. Then somehow, you end up right back in the same place, wondering what changed. And what if the reset started long before you ever noticed it? What this feels like. 'Cause when people think about starting over, they usually focus on the moment everything falls apart. The overdraft, the unexpected bill, the credit card balance creeping back up, the month where the numbers suddenly stop working. But that is rarely where the reset actually begins. Most of the time, the reset starts while things still look normal. You start making small exceptions because things seem under control. And that is usually where the pattern begins. Nothing feels dangerous. Nothing feels urgent. And that is exactly why it is so easy to miss. Because if you are watching this, there is a good chance you have experienced that strange feeling before. The feeling of looking back and thinking, how did I end up here again? Not because you stopped caring. Not because you gave up. 'Cause something started changing long before the consequences showed up. Why this keeps happening? One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming financial setbacks happen all at once. They usually do not. They build quietly, little by little. A skipped transfer, a few impulse purchases, putting off something you plan to do, ignoring a small warning sign because it does not feel important yet. None of these things seem large enough to matter. That is what makes them dangerous. 'Cause the emotional reset often happens before the financial reset. Your attention starts drifting. Decisions become a little more reactive. And without realizing it, your behavior begins changing too. And eventually your actions begin following that emotional shift. The strange part is that most people never connect the two. They only notice the damage after it becomes visible. But by then, the pattern has already been running for weeks, sometimes months. And if this sounds familiar, the part you probably have not noticed yet is even more important. 'Cause the reset is not always coming from where you think it is. What this leads to, over time, something else starts happening. You begin losing trust in your own progress. Not because you are failing, 'cause you no longer know whether the progress will last. Every good month starts feeling temporary, like progress could disappear at any moment. You become cautious about celebrating wins because part of you expects another setback. And that creates a new problem. Instead of building confidence, progress starts creating anxiety. You find yourself waiting for something to go wrong, waiting for the next surprise, waiting for the next reset. Eventually, the cycle becomes bigger than the money itself. It starts affecting how you see your future. What to do instead? Most people respond to a reset by focusing on the visible damage. The overdraft, the missed goal, the setback itself. But if the reset started earlier than that, then that is not where the real problem lives. The real problem is usually hidden inside the small shifts nobody pays attention to, the moments that seem too small to matter, the decisions that feel harmless at the time, the routines that quietly disappear. 'Cause by the time the consequences become obvious, the pattern has often been running for a while. And if you only focus on where things fell apart, you may never notice where they actually started changing. If there is one thing I want you to remember, it is this. You are probably not starting over randomly. There is usually a pattern behind the reset, a sequence, a shift, a chain of events that begins long before the consequences become visible. And once you start seeing those patterns, a bigger question appears. 'Cause some people seem to stay steady even when life gets messy, while others feel like they are constantly trying to regain control. And those may not be the same problem. 'Cause control and stability are not always the same thing. And if you do not understand the difference, you may keep solving the wrong problem without ever realizing it. And maybe that is why this keeps catching people off guard. 'Cause you can feel completely in control right before things start slipping. You can be doing all the right things and still end up back in the same place, which raises a bigger question. What if control is not actually the thing that keeps you from starting over? What if something else is missing?